You're listening to the Cyberwire Network, powered by N2K.
Am I right?
I think you're right.
You damn straight I'm right.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of the Hacking Humans podcast, an occasional series we call Hacking Humans Goes to the Movies. I'm Dave Bittner from the Cyberwire, and joining me is my Hacking Humans co-host, Joe Kerrigan from the Johns Hopkins University Information Security Institute. Hello, Joe.
Hi, Dave.
On this show, Joe and I look at clips from some of our favorite movies, clips which demonstrate some of the scams and schemes we talk about on Hacking Humans. Joining the fun this week is our very special guest, Tracy Mayleaf. She is from Krebs Stamos Group. You may know her on Twitter as InfoSec Sherpa. I've had the pleasure of knowing Tracy for a few years now, and I am very excited to have you on the show. Tracy, thanks for joining us.
It's an honor to be here, and I'm thrilled that you asked me. Thanks so much.
All right. We've got some fun clips to share, so stay tuned. We will be right back after this message from our show sponsor.
The start of the year is a great time to take that next step in your education, career, and beyond. Rely on N2K Certification Prep to provide the tools to help boost knowledge, skills, and confidence to get you there. And now, for a limited time, all N2K certification practice tests are 40% off. Visit n2k.com/certify and use promo code N2KVDAY. That's N2KVDAY to save 40% on your purchase. That's n2k.com/certify with promo code N2KVDAY. Offer ends Monday, February 19th. Happy learning.
All right, let's jump into our clips here. And Tracy, we're going to put you right on the hot seat here and have you start things off for us. What is your movie this week?
My movie is Working Girl. It is a 1988 film starring Melanie Griffith, Harrison Ford, Sigourney Weaver. It's directed by Mike Nichols. I think there's just so many layers to this film, and it only occurred to me recently, within the past few years, of how much there are InfoSec ideas and principles as a part of this. I don't think it was intended that way. I think it was more supposed to be, a look at like big business in America and cutthroat Wall Street and things like that. But if you watch it, and actually the two clips that I picked out, I think you'll see there's a lot of InfoSec ideas and principles in here that I think we can learn from. And I just think it's a great film.
Yeah, I remember this film. I did see it in the movie theater when it came out. And, this was when I think pretty much everybody in this film were at the height of their powers when this movie came out, right? You got Harrison Ford and Melanie Griffith, and Joan Cusack is in this film. Lots of Oscar nominations.
Yeah. Alec Baldwin's in it.
Yeah.
Kevin Spacey's in it. Olympia Dukakis.
Yeah.
There's a lot of big names in it. And one thing I thought of this morning that I didn't want to forget to mention is the interesting dynamic about this film. Now, I could be wrong, so I'm just going to kind of throw this out there. I think this may have been one of the first films to show the dynamic of a female boss, a woman boss with a woman subordinate, specifically a woman subordinate that she... Sorry, spoiler alert if you haven't seen this movie, tried to, manipulate and take credit for work and et cetera.
It's been over 30 years. If people haven't seen the movie now,
if you haven't seen it by now, yeah,
now.
Exactly. I just felt like the obligatory spoiler alert warning.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I was thinking about that this morning, that whole dynamic of, a woman boss with a woman subordinate. And I think this movie would have been very different if it was a man boss, to be honest. I think that for some people was maybe some of the surprise of, a woman is taking credit for another woman's work. Yes, that happens.
Right. Jeez, yeah, imagine that. Yeah.
This is the first movie that I saw, and I'm a big fan of Sigourney Weaver. I've loved her since I was 9 or 10 years old. Saw her in Alien. And was like a fan of hers ever since. I thought that was probably one of the formative movies of my youth is Alien. It's a great movie. And when I saw this movie, I was like, this is the first time I've seen her being a bad guy. playing the villain. So, I have a lot of respect for her playing the breadth of characters. That's one of the things I look for in an actor, and how I judge their quality is the breadth of characters they portray.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we dig into our first clip here, Tracy, is there anything that we should know about the film to set this up?
Okay, so this first clip that I'm going to show you, and I wanted to explain that the order of these clips is out of order how they appear in the film, but I'm doing this intentionally because I feel like the second clip that I want to play is lacking some background information, and I feel like this later clip explains it. So this is basically all about how OSINT and research and having information management, knowledge management, and thinking strategically can be very useful, not only for mergers and acquisitions in the film, but for information security as well. So that should be a good setup for this.
All right.
Not without her.
Jack.
Trainer, are you trying to blow this deal? No, sir. I'm trying to make sure that it gets done right. Tess is this team's leader. She put this deal together. We shouldn't proceed without her. Then you shouldn't go letting your Johnson make business decisions for you. Not, sir. I'm telling you, she's your man. Oh? And what brings you to that conclusion? She said so, and I believe her. I'm afraid that's not good enough. Now, are you with us or not? No.
Jack, I forgive you. Now get on this elevator.
Sorry, Catherine.
You will be sorry, Jack.
Ask her to tell you about the hole in your job.
What hole?
Orange, she's just playing games again. Let's get going.
Fine, go.
No. What hole?
The People page? This is ridiculous.
Come on, you guys.
Former Miss America Dawn Bixby has been house hunting here. Seems Dawn and hot DJ hubby Slim Slicker are getting ready to take a bite out of the Big Apple. So,
Slim Slicker's one of Metro's major assets. Syndicated to all their stations, #1 in his slot, the cornerstone of their programming.
You lose him and Metro's just some okay real estate with falling ratings, and you're not exactly buying it for a write-off.
Better make sure he's locked in before they sign anything.
Oren, I have this covered. Upstairs, shall we?
Yes.
Oren!
You're the lady out, sir. There's another elevator.
Yeah, baby. Always have your source material. Don't be afraid to connect the dots.
See, this is Forbes. It's just your basic article about how you were looking to expand into broadcasting, right? Okay, now, the same day, I'll never forget this. I'm reading page 6 of the Post, and there's this item on Bobby Stein, the radio talk show guy who does all those gross jokes about Ethiopia and the Betty Ford Center. Well, anyway, he's hosting this charity auction that night, real blue bloods, and won't that be funny? Now I turn the page to Susie, who does the society stuff, and there's this picture of your daughter. See, nice picture. And she's helping to organize the charity ball. So I started to think, Trask, radio.
Okay, so sorry for that clip with the commentary, but honestly, I thought that this guy was proving my point, so that's why I sent this clip. So why I captured this clip from the film is, this is OSINT, right? This is research. And I like that this character was able to extract valuable information and turn it into intelligence based on gossip columns and society columns, and cross-referenced it with business news. And that's absolutely 100% real. When I was a law firm librarian, that's the kind of stuff that I'd have to do as well, when sometimes the attorneys would want to connect two individuals for some reason. They would give me the names of two different people, and it was my job to try and connect them. And that's the kind of information you need to dig up. So I feel like this is a really good example of not only using OSINT, but using the intelligence gathering process, how to make intelligence out of data. So sure, a single column about a former Miss America and a shock jock DJ house hunting, may not have any significance on its own, but as the character pointed out, okay, well, this is how it fits into this business decision and things like that. So I just think that this is a really great way to explain that.
one of the things that every single intelligence agency in every country has their intelligence agency. They all have an army of people that read newspapers, or the equivalent of them now, but that's what they would do. Their job was read the newspaper and put things together.
Yeah, connecting those dots.
Right.
And in this case, in the movie, she sort of proves her worth to these folks who are getting ready to do this big business deal to demonstrate that they overlooked something, and her ability to connect the dots is going to make all the difference in the world.
Exactly. And the other point I wanted to make, too, is the Harrison Ford character, Jack, in this was really an ally and an advocate to Tess, the Melanie Griffith character. And that's, I talked before the clip about the significance of Sigourney Weaver being a woman boss in this situation. But this is also significant that, again, this kind of goes against a lot of the stereotypes we see, or real life, where, a man couldn't possibly advocate or be an ally for a woman in business. But he was, and, he stood by his convictions and did that, and stood by her. And that's also what we need more of in InfoSec, are, just especially, if it's a man who may be listened to more than a woman, but to have those male allies is very crucial. So again, this movie is just filled with all kinds of really good lessons and sociological aspects and stuff. So it's just, I really think it's just underrated as far as it goes for these topics. I think a lot of people just respect it as a good entertainment piece, but I think it's really a lot deeper than that.
Well, let's set up the second clip you have here for us. What do we need to know before we look at this one?
Sure. Now, this is a really good example of social engineering. So Tess and Jack basically social engineer their way into the wedding of the executive who in the previous scene she was explaining all the connections to. And the reason why I showed the second scene first is because this is all the information she has been gathering, and that was her proof. So what they needed to do was they needed to get to the head of this Trask company directly. And that's when they decided to take matters in their own hands and crash the wedding. So it's just some social engineering, techniques, and also maybe a bit of physical security, of how they got in and all. But again, the intel that they found of where the wedding was and whatnot was in the society pages and all that. So this is really just the execution of the plan of how to get directly to the Trask gentleman, the head of the company.
All right, here's the scene.
Who are you? I'm Tess. I'm a friend of Mark's. I'm just so happy that I could be here for you today.
Glorious, fabulous, stunning, really, super, elegant, perfect.
You're right, this is crazy, so let's just go.
Excuse me. The woman that's dancing with Oren, what's her name?
Oh, Elizabeth Stubblefield?
That's right. Liz? Beth?
Bitsy.
Bitsy, that's right.
Jack.
You want to do it? Do it. Excuse us. Bitsy, don't break my heart and tell me you don't remember me.
Of course I do.
Excuse us.
Talk about a small world, huh? I mean, here we've just met, and yet I feel as though I've spent so much time working with you, in a way. I'm in mergers and acquisitions at Petty Marsh.
Oh, well, I really wish we were having more luck with your team.
And so do I. So do I. I've been trying to set you up with a radio network. But my bosses, they think that you're just stuck on acquiring television and won't even listen.
Well, that's not true.
Well, that's what I said. I said that the man who in 1971 looked into the future and saw that it was named microwave technology, the man who applied Japanese management principles while the others were still kowtowing to the unions, the man who saw the Ma Bell breakup coming from miles away. I mean, this man did not get to be this man. You, I mean. by shutting himself off to new ideas. Am I right or am I right?
I think you're right.
You damn straight I'm right.
If you've got the right property, I'd love to hear about it.
You would?
Absolutely. What's the
I just realized that I'm hogging the father of the bride, and I see Phyllis coming in. Well, what do you say that I give you a call on Monday?
Well, our media consultant is Tim Draper.
Tim, right.
Honey, I'm starved.
So am I. Bye.
Bye.
All right.
Yeah, so hopefully you understand why I played them out of order as they appear, because I wanted to demonstrate that she had all this hard knowledge, because she was showing in the clip the actual newspapers and magazines. And then in this clip, not only was the social engineering on display with Jack asking the other bridesmaid, not only her name, but the real savvy extra move of, what does she go by? Because if he had just called her Elizabeth, then that would have tipped off the woman that, he doesn't really know her. But by calling her Bitsy, created that sense of familiarity. And then also, if you haven't seen this movie, this is where Tess is still pretending to be the one in charge, as far as Mr. Trask is concerned. But again, if all that she rattled off there, that was research that she did. And putting things together. So I really like this movie for the OSINT and the research and the intelligence cycle. And it just has a lot of great quotes and clips in it. But this just really drives home the point to me of, you need to do your research. You need to understand, the person or the threat actor you're investigating, whatever it is, and understanding the difference between data, knowledge, and intelligence. She could have had all of these individual pieces of data about him, but able to thread it together to make intelligence, to understand his motivations. She was really, kind of manipulating him in a good way, buttering him up. Yeah, flattering him and all, and she was just using his own life, to do that, to really understand his motivations and all. So yeah, I just think those two scenes really piece together why I think this is a good InfoSec related film.
Yeah, it's a good movie, and also just as I think a side note, it is very much a movie of its time. It is it is the late '80s, so there's lots of big hair and shoulder pads, and
it's glorious. It's glorious.
It really is. It really is, and I have a soft spot for Joan Cusack, who I think is good in everything she does. There were many Oscar nominations out of this movie. She was nominated for Best Supporting Actress, along with Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah, she really, really shined in this. And again, this also really shows what things were like for women in the mid to late 80s in business, because the Joan Cusack character, for example, was pretty much content with being a secretary, which again, there's nothing wrong with that. But, Tess had ambition, and she was in some ways ostracized from the other secretaries for having ambition.
Right.
And, having worked in offices in the 90s, I can say that didn't change too much. There really was some sort of like hierarchy. And I'm not saying that there weren't women. I worked for I won't say the name of it, but I worked as a secretary for a management consulting firm in the early 90s. And there were definitely, women in higher level positions, there's probably more now. But yeah, there definitely was a hierarchical class between the secretaries and other people. So yeah, this really rings true. I feel like they either had people who worked on Wall Street to talk to on this film, but they really got like the lower hierarchy of, the lower tranche of it.
Yeah.
Well done. And also for some younger folks watching this, all the scenes with coffee, asking like, how do you take your coffee and stuff like that? That was a thing that secretaries had to do, was to, fetch coffee for bosses. And so just as a quick side note, as a funny story, when I was in high school, I did an internship in an office, a tourism office, but it was still, an office. And I remember I found this postcard that I thought was really funny. And there's a famous coffee maker brand called Mr. Coffee. Well, this was a postcard that was called Ms. Coffee. And the deal with Ms. Coffee is that it had a thought bubble above it and it said, make it yourself. And I got in trouble in the office for putting that up on my desk.
Wow.
Yes, because
times change.
I was seen as a radical. Putting that up was like it's disrespectful, it's subordinate, it's radical, all this stuff, and I was like, oh boy, and that wasn't that long ago. That was 89, I think. Was when that happened. Yeah.
All right. Well, good clips from a good movie. Again, that's Working Girl. Joe, what do you have for us this week?
Well, my clip is from a movie nowhere near as good as Working Girl. It's Ocean's 8, which is starring Sandra Bullock and some other people. But this is a short clip, a really short one. And actually, this clip has 2 scams in it, but we're just going to do the first one. Maybe I'll save the second one for next time.
Okay.
But this one is I thought this one was really, really clever. In this one, what we're really going to focus on is pretext, which is the lie that people tell you to change your frame of reference. So why don't we begin with the clip?
All right.
I'd like to return these.
Oh, of course. Do you have your receipt?
No, but they're unopened. They haven't been touched.
I really need your receipt.
They are sealed. They are brand new.
Do you have the credit card that you use?
This is ridiculous. I bought these last week.
Maybe you can try client services on the 6th floor.
You know, never mind. I'll just keep them. Jesus. Can I at least get a bag?
Sure.
Thank you.
Oh, wow.
So this is brilliant, I think, in that it's elegant. It is an absolutely elegant scam in that it's so simple how it works. She walks in, she acts like she's buying perfume or makeup or something, and even grabs a sampler, sprays it in the air, and like sniffs at it. Then she just takes a couple of items off the shelf, and then pretends like she's going to try to return them. And that's not even what the objective is. She actually is going to steal these things, but she doesn't try to pocket them. She walks up and blatantly tries to return them. And when she knows that they won't cooperate with this, and because, I don't know, maybe she knows the policies, but when the woman says, well, you can't return them without a receipt, you're going to have to go talk to client services, she says, well, can I at least get a bag? Right? And now she stuffs everything in a bag, and now she looks like she's purchased it. So if she walks out of here by security, nobody thinks twice.
Yeah. I suspect she would have been okay if they'd taken the return and given her cash.
Yeah, I'm sure she would have. Yep. That would have worked. It's a no-lose situation.
Yeah.
Unless somebody sees you picking up the things off the shelf and then try to return them. Then you probably lose big.
Yeah. Tracy, what do you make of this?
A lot of things, actually. Well, one is this is definitely from a point of privilege that I don't think a woman of color necessarily would have been able to get away with something like this in the real world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that thought occurred to me as well.
Yeah.
That's right.
That this is, and also the privileged part of wealth. Like it clearly was a wealthy store. So,
right. She looks the part.
She looks the part, although she is actually, in the movie, she's not the part. She's not wealthy.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a couple different areas of privilege going on here that made all this possible. It also seems strange to me that the clerk gave up so easily. Now, I do understand why, though. I mean, because in a place like that, it's probably, the customer's always right, and she was probably instructed not to put up a fuss. But having, trying to do legitimate returns in department stores, it has never been that smooth. So, I mean, I know it's a movie, but I wish they would have maybe had a little bit of a fight put up.
But her objective is not to get the return. Her objective is to walk out with the makeup, with the expensive makeup.
Yeah. See, because to me, I would have thought, well, like, why were you walking around with these things to return them? Like, you would have had a bag in the first place.
Right. You would have come in directly here and returned them.
So, like, I know it's a movie, and I'm not trying to be a wet blanket, but it was like, this
but
doesn't
you've
really
worked in
seem...
retail, right?
I've worked in retail, and I've had to do legitimate returns before, and I'm like, no, it never goes like that. So it's a little bit of poetic license for that.
Yeah,
sure.
One of the things I wonder is, as she made her way around the store, there were several different clerks along the way. And I wonder to what degree was she deliberate in choosing this clerk to be the one to target with the checkout? Did she say, this looks like the new person or something like that?
Yeah, or someone younger or the furthest away from where she was, so that the clerk couldn't see, maybe how long she had been in the store or not been in the store. Yeah. Things like that. I think it is a bad influence, because I'm afraid it could give people ideas to do this. So it kind of makes me nervous, and it makes me feel bad.
This isn't working at Best Buy.
Yeah.
Like, it makes me feel bad for service workers, because somebody saw this film and then tried to pull that. So I mean, I get it. It's social engineering, and that's what
we do here.
She needed to do. Yeah, that's what was done. So as far as the task goes of social engineering this high-end department store out of some makeup, then it was successful. But from a humanitarian perspective, it was kind of a crappy thing to do. And, it just kind of makes me cringe. And if
you don't listen to this show, do you?
That's because you're a good person, Tracy.
Exactly. We talk about stuff every week that makes me cringe. Yeah.
That's right.
Sometimes I just can't help myself going, hey, that's pretty clever.
Yeah, but I think the point is a good one. I mean, I think, to me, what makes this one work is that she walks into this place like she owns the place.
Right.
She's not skulking around. She's not trying to distract or not have attention on her, right? And that is part of what makes it work, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
And to compare and contrast the two, I mean, the Melanie Griffith character was, in her way, also performing, social engineering, and it would benefit her. Now, I don't know that it really would have benefited her from pay-wise, because I don't think she had any financial stake in the merger and acquisition. Because I know somebody could argue, well, they're both doing the same thing. They're both manipulating people. But in Ocean's 8, it was clearly for her own personal benefit. It was more, black hat-ish, and whereas the Melanie Griffith character, I would say, was more like gray, white hat, because, I don't think she stood to benefit necessarily financially from the merger and acquisition. Now, I know, again, spoiler alert, at the end, she did get a job out of it, like a higher level job, but I don't think that necessarily, I just feel like it's a little bit different. I think Melanie Griffith was just trying to prove her worth and, also do the right thing for this company. Whereas the other thing was just purely selfish and whatnot. So I feel like that's where there's that, really ethical gray line.
Ocean's 8 is a heist movie. So
yeah.
All right. Well, those are our clips for this week. We want to thank all of you for coming along with us. We'll have links to all of those clips in the show notes. And, of course, we want to thank Tracy Mayleaf for joining us.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thanks for having me. This was great.
The Hacking Humans podcast is proudly produced in Maryland at the startup studios of Data Tribe, where they're co-building the next generation of cybersecurity teams and technologies. Our senior producer is Jennifer Iben. Our executive editor is Peter Kilpe. I'm Dave Bittner.
I'm Joe Kerrigan.
I'm Tracy Mayleaf.
Thanks for listening.